This is the title I chose with regard to the theme, metaphors, narratives, meanings, and change. So the risk of ambiguities and metaphors. And the question is there a risk in using metaphors? Let's examine some facts before I proceed. Either being in psychotherapy or knowing NLP, it is well known so far, and it's proven, that the transformative power of metaphors opens a way to solution and change. And why is that? Because they enable metaphors and narratives, enable the listener to associate an issue with a real-life situation. Let's define metaphors. Metaphor could be defined as a word or a phrase that may even take a form of a full narrative, which actually refers to one thing and at the same time may suggest a plethora of others. And how is it possible, talking of one theme and at the same time suggesting a plethora of others? So when we talk about communication and talking about communication, I would like to refer to the fact that people, whether they are customers, whether they are clients or individuals, in personal or in family settings, it doesn't really matter, are prisoners of perception. And why is that? Because we all know in neurolinguistic programming that each one of us, created by the way he's, not due to a DNA, but the way that his brain was trained, his mind was trained, each one of us create our own model or map of the world, which means that we are free to interpret what we hear based on our experiences, based on where we want to put the focus on. And another very famous presupposition of NLP says that the map is not the territory, which means what it is said is not necessarily meant to mean just one thing. Besides, philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche put it like that: all things are subject to interpretation. So given these facts, let me walk you through the journey of discovery, each one in his own unique way, so that we understand what the title may suggest for each one of us. And all this definitely through a narrative. So I'm starting my narrative, and I will take you back to ancient Greeks, where my distant ancestors, the ancient Greeks, despite their proven remarkable achievements, could not help but also be thirsty for what lay in store for them. And they resorted to an array of oracles, sights, seers, prophets, and prophetesses to find out what was the future, what lay in the future for them. It's not working, I told you, I'm not good with electronics. So where were we? They resorted to an array of oracles, sights, seers, prophets, and prophetesses to find out what lay in store for them. So let's visit some of them. some of the famous Greek oracles. The Donna was the oldest purely Hellenic in origin. It was dedicated to Zeus. I mean, mainly, most of the Greek oracles were dedicated to Zeus. And the Donna was one of them. Another famous was that in Libya, the Oasis of Siwa, which was personally consulted by Alexander the Great, and it was dedicated to god Amon. And of course, the granddaddy of them all was the famous oracle of Delphi, dedicated to Apollo. Delphi is as famous today as it was in ancient times. Numerous visitors of many nationalities visit the exciting archaeological site of Delphi nowadays, and even the term Delphi is used in various formats in electronics. Few know, however, that the name Delphi is relatively, and I repeat, relatively recent. Why? Well, before the Greeks, the Greek tribes left the steppes seeking a better life, chasing the sun, until one day there is the water bluer than any other, the Aegean Sea. The indigenous inhabitants of this region were called Pelasgians, and they already held a full-fledged oracle, operating at a hamlet called in their language Python, at the very site of later Delphi. Its wise guardian spirit was a giant snake, aptly called Python, reputed to be the son of the goddess Ea, who was venerated at the oracle's temple. The migrating Greeks wasted no time taking over the lucrative oracle that, like modern banks, charged substantial fees for its services. Abandoning the non-Greek name Python, they renamed the village Delphi from the Greek word Delphis, meaning womb, probably in reference to the goddess Ea, known as Mother Earth. They dedicated the oracle to Apollo and created the myth of Apollo, and as an Indo-European deity who slew the guard serpent Python. The myth symbolized the conquest of the indigenous Mediterranean inhabitants by Indo-European Greek tribes, and yet Python's importance as a symbol of wisdom remained, because every woman who served as a priestess medium in Delphi was referred to as Pythia, meaning Pythoness, and even kept her snakes in her quarters. The Delphi oracle was respected throughout the Greek world, and even in neighboring countries. Both rich individuals and states consulting the oracle when facing dilemmas or before major undertakings. Petitioners approached Apollo's temple, bringing a sacrificial animal and, of course, a monetary donation. Petitioners drew lots to determine the order of admission, but the order was cut across by a more important factor. The higher the fee you offered the oracle, the higher spot you were given the long waiting line. Thus, representatives of city-states with their huge donations and also rich individuals were granted priority. But the priests running the operation be able to provide believable prophecies. They claimed that the temple's patron, god Apollo, spoke through the priestess Pythia. She sat on a tripod seat over a crack in the ground from which natural vapors emerged. She inhaled the vapors, and when she entered an ecstatic trance state, she started babbling. Her incoherent mumblings were interpreted and explained to petitioners by whom else? Temple priests. Sometimes petitioners sought advice, and at other times submitted a plan of action for approval or comments. So how did the oracle at Delphi manage to acquire a sterling reputation for accuracy? Well, in the case of political issues, it is obvious that the interpreting priests made sure they were sufficiently well informed to provide a logical, fitting answer or suggestion. Sometimes, especially in the case of political questions, the answer was a rearrangement of the wording of the question in a mystical form, suggesting that the petitioner work out the answer sought. But no doubt, the interpreting priests of the oracle deserve to be admired for their brilliant use of ambiguity that made Delphi to be known as the navel of Earth. Let's see now a few examples of such brilliant but nevertheless stealthy use of ambiguity. As we are meeting in Athens this time, let's start with a very famous suggestion, one that concerned the very survival of the city back in 480 BC, when Xerxes, the son of Darius the Great of Persia, invaded Greece. With a huge army, was close to Athens to take avenge for supporting their fellow Ionians in their revolt against Persia. The Athenians naturally consulted Delphi, and the oracle advised them a wooden wall should be impregnable. A mere wooden wall? Has the oracle gone nuts? Well, the oracle was so highly respected that a number of Athenians erected a wooden wall around the Acropolis and fortified themselves behind it. The invading Persians broke through the wall, slew all the defenders, plundered the table, and set fire to every part of the citadel. Wow! Did the world-famous oracle make a boo-hoo? Of course not. The priests were too smart to be caught unawares. The wise Athenian politician and general Themistocles saved Athens as well as the oracle's reputation. He perceived and interpreted the metaphor differently, to mean not the flimsy wall of wood, but an impregnable array of wooden warships, one that indeed stopped the Persians dead in their tracks in the monumental sea battle of Salamis, and thus saved not only Greece, but also Western civilization from Persian domination. Another famous example of brilliant ambiguity occurred in 560 BC. Croesus, king of Lydia in Asia Minor, who had expanded his kingdom into an empire, asked the oracle if he should continue his territorial expansion by making war on the Persians. And the oracle responded that if he made war on the Persians, he would destroy a great empire. Well, Croesus assumed that the famous oracle was referring to the admittedly mighty Persian Empire, and feeling sure now that he would defeat the Persians, he attacked Persia. The result? Croesus lost the war, lost his own empire, and was taken prisoner by the Persians. Again, the priests did not make an error. Croesus did destroy a great empire based on his own interpretation. He destroyed the great empire, but that was not the Persians, it was his own. Indeed, the oracle covered its bases all the time. So in 403 BC, Lysander, the admiral who led Sparta to victory against Athens during the Peloponnesian War, was at the height of his glory. Athens had just been crushed, and Lysander asked the oracle what the future held for him. The oracle replied, I warned you to be on your guard against a roaring warrior and the treacherous earthborn serpent having come from behind. Even pious believers thought it was quite a stretch. A snake threatening the most powerful man of the Greek world at the time? Surely the oracle this time blew it. And yet, the crafty priests had several aces up their sleeves, thanks to the ambiguity in using metaphors. Lysander was killed in a battle 8 years later, when he led Spartan army, reinforced by allies against the Boeotian alliance led by Thebes, a former staunch ally of Sparta that sought hegemony after the Peloponnesian War. According to the biographer Plutarch, the Boeotian fighter called Neophoros, who killed Lysander in an ambush, bore on his shield the image of the snake. Besides, isn't the treacherous former ally anything but a dirty snake? The priests of the Delphi oracle remained artful to the very end. The Roman Emperor Flavius Claudius Julianus is better known as Julian the Apostate for his repudiation of Christianity and his determination not only to revive paganism, but even raise it to the level of an official religion of the empire. It is said that in 361 AD, he sent an emissary to the oracle, which had also declined with the rise of Christianity, to ask how he could help restore it to its former glory. But the priests did know that the show was over, because it was over. And they replied with what else? A metaphor. Είπατε το βασιλεί, χαμέπεσε δέδαλο ξαβλά, ουκέτι φίβος έχει καλύβα, ου μάντιδα δάφνη, ου πάγαν λαλέψαν, απέσβετο και λάλλον είδωρ. Tell the king, that the elaborate hall has crumbled to the ground. Apollo has no longer a hand, no divining Laura, no bubbling spring. Even the bubbling water has run dry. Thank you.